Reform UK reports Channel 4 to elections watchdog over scandalous election interference. And this is in relation to a man who allegedly was an actor. Now, he was in the Reform Party, he was going door to door, and he was being filmed for some reason, like saying a bunch of racist comments. He even called Rishi Sunak the P word and all that. And basically, it turns out the guy might be a paid actor, and this was all a complete setup. And Channel 4 might be in a lot of trouble because Channel 4 are like, oh, we actually paid like a third party like production company for the footage, so it's like not our fault. Yeah, but you still ran with it, didn't you? And tried to do this big expose about how racist and horrible the Reform Party are and how nobody should vote for them and all that. But yes, let's get into the article. Reform UK has reported Channel 4 to the elections watchdog over scandalous election interference after an investigation by the broadcaster recorded an alleged canvasser spouting racist and homophobic comments. Andrew Parker referred to Sunak as a effing P while canvassing in Clacton, Essex, where Farage is standing as an MP. However, Parker has been accused of being an actor, with Farage claiming he may have been paid. Party Secretary and leading barrister Adam Richardson has also made a formal complaint to Essex Police on Farage's behalf under Section S106 of the 1983 Representation of the People Act, accusing actor Andrew Parker of knowingly making false statements about a candidate during an election campaign. He has also expressed that he will be demanding an Ofcom investigation. Ofcom are like a regulatory watchdog body for like many things, actually. TV, radio, elections. Yeah, they're basically they're the Jannies. They're the country's Jannies. That's what they are. In a letter to the Election Commission, Richardson revealed that Parker is not a property developer, as he has alleged, but a jobbing actor. A search of the company's house reveals that Parker incorporated a company called Clearwater Estates Limited on 16th February 2018, which has filed exclusively dormant accounts. Parker is the only registered director. Richardson added that it was entirely evident that Parker was a plant within the Channel 4 news piece. It is wholly unbelievable that by complete coincidence, Channel 4 were performing an undercover investigation and by chance were paired up to go canvassing with a man who was pretending to be someone else, using a false voice and saying almost exclusively racist and bigoted remarks. So they were invited out and this guy didn't know he was being filmed and was being like hyper racist. Now this is the thing is, I hang out in these circles, right? No one's that racist, right? We might say the occasional thing, like now and again, right? But out in these circles, like no one is like that racist, right? That's what's making me think it's a setup. It was a total setup, and the guy's an actor. The Channel 4 broadcast has clearly been made to harm Reform UK during an election period, and this cannot be described as anything short of election interference. It is entirely untrue that Parker had any connection with Farage, as he details in the documentary, and has obviously attempted to use this fictional association to smear him in the national media and damage his campaign. This is an absolute scandal, election interference on a national scale, and potentially fraud. We request an immediate investigation into both Parker and Channel 4 News, including any production houses that may have been used to create the piece. Farage is standing for election within a regulated period, and it flies in the face of the law and democracy itself if a national broadcaster can film an actor lying about his association with the leader of the second most popular political party and broadcast it with impunity. Speaking on his YouTube channel today, Farage addressed the attacks against his party, which he claims is evidence they are performing well. Yeah, the system's scared. The system is absolutely scared of Farage. The Tories are gone. Like, the fucking zero seats, and they absolutely deserve it. Farage Reform could be the new right wing. However, there are theories that it's technically containment. Everyone, look at our based Browns. Oh man, that's what it feels like. Again, playing by their rules, which we definitely need to stop doing. But you know, maybe it'll be good, and it'll be nice to have somewhat of a right wing party back in power again until about 4 or 5 years from now, where they just become indistinguishable from the Tories. But anyway, 6 days to go until the general election, and boy, are we doing well. How do I know? The level of attacks. To begin with, they've dug out a statement from me 10 years ago saying I thought there'd be war in Ukraine, that we've made some terrible errors of expanding NATO and into the European Union. Which, let's face it, look, Ukraine was a little bit of a Pearl Harbor, where after the fact, America went, a shocked Pikachu face. Well, I was right. They were all wrong. Funny, isn't it? That gets conflated into support for Vladimir Putin, which I never have. I have always thought he's a very bad and dangerous person. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of a real pushback against Reform UK, against the momentum that is happening out there in the country. Because, like I've said in several videos so far, things have gotten really, really bad, and voters are, and basically that is going to be reflected at the polls. Now, I hate democracy, and I don't think it works, because the way democracy works in this country is it's not being part of a majority, it's being part of the biggest minority. It's the biggest minority that wins in our current system. He continued, over the last 24 hours, a so-called Reform UK activist turns up in the Clacton office, goes out with an undercover, apparently Channel 4 team, and makes a series of very racist, derogatory remarks about Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, about people crossing the channel. I watched this stuff and thought it's just so over the top. It's like an Alf Garnett comedy sketch going back 50 years. Yet overnight, we found out that the guy is an actor. The Daily Telegraph called him this morning, and he denied it. After a short period of time, he admitted to other media outlets that he was an actor. Then we found out he had his own website where he speaks and advertises his services for adverts. He describes himself as being very well spoken, but he has an alter ego. Farage went on to hit out at Channel 4, calling the whole affair a stitch-up on the most astonishing scale. He added, an activist for a party, not a candidate who holds no position whatsoever, makes the front page of the Times newspaper. The Prime Minister responds to say how awful he feels for his two daughters about these racist remarks that were made about his family. Folks, this is the biggest stitch-up I have ever seen in my life. Channel 4 has stood by its rigorous and duly impartial journalism. However, let's be a little bit kind to Channel 4, because as someone who is featured in documentaries and stuff like that, the big news channels don't usually make them directly themselves. Some they do, but most of the time they will get a third-party company to do it for them. You can see them in the credits. So it'll say like produced by blah 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 and funded by the BBC. That's usually what it says. Like the Nazi Pug documentary that I was in for the BBC, that the BBC wanted it, they paid a company to make it, but it was a whole other company that I was working with. I think they were called Alaskan Films or something. I don't remember. It was bloody years ago now. But yeah, so maybe this third party company who, you know, kind of a little bit activists, and they went, we need some juicy stuff, otherwise Channel 4 won't buy it, because that can happen as well. If the documentary's rubbish, the BBC and the big channels just won't buy it, and then these guys are like tens and tens of thousands in the hole. So they're like, so we need something really, really good. So maybe, allegedly, they hired this guy as an actor to LARP as a reform campaigner and got him to say all of this stuff. Maybe. I don't know. But that is what's been alleged. I've just read that. We met Parker for the first time at Reform UK Party headquarters, where he was a Reform Party canvasser, the broadcaster said in a statement. We did not pay the Reform UK canvasser or anyone else in this report. Parker was not known to Channel 4 News and was filmed covertly via the undercover operation. So, who knows? But I definitely, basically, this is going to get looked into, because this is massive election interference by a massive news channel that millions of people watch. Right, so again, everything is alleged at this point, and let's just sit back and see what happens.